Rising is a trilogy of science fiction novels set on Mars in the distant future, which follow the story of Darrow, a young man tasked with bringing down a corrupt ruling class. It's also a series of books that I've personally never read. Lead designer Jamey Stegmaier of Stonemaier Games, however, has, and this is his self-avowed dream IP. Alongside co-designer Alexander Schmidt, these two have worked with series author Pierce Brown to bring us this provided review copy of Red Rising. Hunting for combos among the 112 characters in the game while managing a capricious hand of cards is a mercurial task, which is a sentence that only barely makes sense, as I just wanted to use both those words in the same sentence. Let's get to our review. Past our collector's edition stamped box, we'll find the game's simple and elegant board, nestled tightly inside this plastic insert designed to keep the rest of the game components in place. Two rulebooks, one for the game and another for the solo experience, reveal the pieces and cards that are the beating heart of this star. While everything technically has a place here, from the stack of character cards to the score pad and even individual circle channels for the metal fleet and influence pieces, that plastic seal doesn't hold them in place. And if you store your games vertically, as you should, you'll find most of the inner four colors deep inside this channel, which hold these card holder racks. Bummer. The Fox Wolf container for the helium tokens is by far the coolest and most functional part of our unboxing. I'll quickly set this up for a play and walk you through how to overthrow our gold overlords. Here we are, overlooking a selection of our solar system, including the locations of Jupiter, Mars, Luna, and the Institute, which isn't a planet, but rather an elite school that you have to attend if you're chosen. The object of our game is to amass as many points as humanly possible through these character cards, the vast majority of which will score endgame points if you manage to combine them with some number of other cards. To do that, on your turn, you can choose from one of the game's two actions. You can lead, in which you'll choose a card from your hand and play it face up to one of the four board locations on top of the already existing card stack. If that card has a deploy ability, denoted by an icon on the card itself, you'll resolve that and gain any benefit. To replace the card you just played, you can choose the top card from any other location on the board or the top card of the deck. Depending on which location you choose to draw from, you'll gain a bonus. Jupiter allows you to move your fleet marker up one space on the track. Mars gains you a helium from the Foxwolf. Luna gains you the Sovereign token, which most player houses will care about. And the Institute will collect one of your influence tokens. Choosing the top card of the deck will allow you to roll the rising die, whose outcome is any of the aforementioned bonuses. Boni? As well as being able to banish the top card of a location or revealing the top card of the deck itself and placing it to any location. The other action available to you freedom fighters is scouting, a simplified version of the lead action. You take the top card of the deck and place it on top of any location on the board, gaining the bonus of that location. This isn't the same as deploying that card, so you wouldn't gain a bonus if that card had a deploy ability. Scouting obviously doesn't affect your hand, so if you like the interactions of all the cards in your grip, then kick the can down the line by doing this. And that's it. That's the whole game. The game ends when players collectively reach 7 on all the resources, the fleet track, helium, and influence on the Institute, or when one single player gets 7 on 2 of them. Finish the round by giving everyone a turn until you get back to the first player, and then total up points across all the game's many scoring areas. While you may think that toppling an oligarchy and freeing your people from endless toil in the helium mines would require more than just digging for cards, surprisingly, it doesn't. Let's start with what works here. First off, you may have noticed just how great this game looks on the table. Production design and art assets for Red Rising are elegant, clean, and very, very functional. The metal fleet tokens and influence markers feel outstanding in your hands and have an even better presence on the board. The varied art across the character cards feels cohesive in the game's universe, but also clearly shows the difference between the haves, the have-nots, and the ones tasked for war. Additionally, the character cards and the scoring methods embodied on them are varied and fun. Some characters want to hang out with others, some want to dominate other social class colors, still more reward you for banishing their enemies to the ether. Each of the game's 14 class colors behaves in a way you'd expect from that faction, and once you've chosen the few casts that you're going to align yourself with in the game, you can generally focus on them without needing to pivot around a lot, which is really helpful considering that one of the things I didn't care for in this game is just how scattershot having 14 factions can feel at times. While I'm absolutely sure that in the world of author Brown's books, it's vitally important that all 14 colored casts each serve an important narrative purpose, in this game, they mostly served a confusing one. Across over 100 cards, it can be very daunting to try and find the color combos you're looking for early, and new players will be forgiven for thinking this game is far more complicated than it actually is. Trussed up around the world of these novels, Red Rising is ultimately just a game of matching cards to other cards. The Fleet Marker, Influence, and Helium all give you points in some manner, but the bulk of your scoring is going to come from card interaction. Some of which is very simple. 5 points for every other pink or brown in your hand, 15 points if this card is with this other card, 11 points if you have the Sovereign token, etc. Other times, trying to acquire the denoted objective is going to really mess you up. Harmony, for example, gives you a massive 33 points, but only if you have only pinks, reds, browns, and obsidians in your hand and no one else. This would normally be manageable, but obsidians are very picky about who they're around, and you could avoid them altogether, but now you've cut yourself off from 25% of your possible scoring, all due to one card. And you're going to have 7 or so in your hand at game's end. The core gameplay here reminds me a lot of Everdell, a game that was pretty roundly decried as not being beginner-friendly due to not having any idea what the card combo possibilities are. With 128 cards in that game and 112 in this one, you might think that that's about the same amount of digging, but you have to remember that Everdell only had 48 unique cards. There were about 3 copies, on average, of each. Red Rising's cards are all unique. Also, the difference between Everdell and Red Rising is that Everdell's theme is universally accessible. Adorable animals is either your thing or it isn't. Red Rising presents you with a world of barely organized chaos from a book series that some players might not even be vaguely familiar with. And while the themes are pretty standard dystopian sci-fi fare, the cards and interactions are pretty specific. Given my take on Red Rising, I know it's going to sound weird that I'm wrapping up my review by stating that I wanted more from this one. It's not necessarily that I wanted more complication or complexity, I just wanted something else to do. Burning through a massive deck of one-off cards trying to find the 3 or 4 that I really want isn't how I wanted to spend an hour or so with 5 of my friends. And that is the real tragedy here. I'm always on the lookout for a higher player count game for my group, which regularly hits 6 people. While, as always, your mileage may vary, I didn't love this one enough to keep it in my rotation. Red Rising is clearly a labor of love designed by designer Jamey Stegmaier, but one that ultimately doesn't work for me personally. That's not to say there isn't a game in here somewhere, but let's go through our checklist before I give you my final thoughts. In the box, rulebook clear and non-gender pronouns. Our 8-page rulebook does a good job of teaching the admittedly very simple gameplay to new players, but does so in a rather strange order, not telling you how to win or what you're looking to do until the very end of the book. Still, the minimum number of pages and full color examples are both very welcome. Second-person pronouns you and yours are used to signify the player throughout the main rulebook and the Automa solo rulebook. Your solo player opponent, Tool Otoma, is denoted as using she/her pronouns. Iconography clear. Yes, there's precious little iconography here, which is certainly helpful as it could very easily have gotten carried away with card dependencies across 14 different colors. Colorblind players need not fear either, as each card is labeled with the name of its color. The character cards have a helpful side panel to denote which colors or other characters they'll score endgame points with. Packaging well done. Sort of. While the game's insert is neatly built with the aforementioned plastic cover to keep everything in place, the fit isn't great, and pieces will fall out of their designated spaces when stored vertically. Additionally, the card channel isn't deep enough for the 112 game cards by themselves, and certainly won't house them sleeved. On the table, good representation. Some of the art is difficult to tell, but overall, about 1/3 of the game's cards feature women, half feature men, and the remainder are non-binary or otherwise masked/cloaked/undead figures. There's a few animals and a handful of ships as well. Of the 90 or so cards featuring people, only about 1/4 of those are people of color. Component quality. The card stock is great, and the helium acrylic gems, while slightly on the small side, are nice to have over cardboard chits. The metal pieces here, influence tokens, fleet markers, sovereign token, and first player marker, all look and feel great on the table. The chunky die is also a bonus. Overall, great attention was paid to the tactile components, and it shows. Replay value. Very high. If you can find yourself playing this game over and over again, while certain strategies will certainly repeat, there's enough cards in the deck that you may never see the one you want in a specific game. Now that also means that strategies dependent on those cards will certainly shift from session to session. Fun to lose. That depends. While endgame scoring can be incredibly swingy based on combos you may or may not have compiled throughout the game, you more or less know how successful you were at finding what you needed as the game moves along. If you struggled to put together the right colors or friends, then you likely know you're going to lose well before you start counting. For my table, I don't particularly like digging for the right cards as a game mechanic, but discovering a particularly delicious combo is some people's chocolate and peanut butter. Red Rising is a box that held so much potential, but ultimately didn't fulfill on any of it for my tastes. The production quality is outstanding, however, and the art of Jackie Davis, Miles Bensky, and Justin Wong is top shelf, which breaks my gamer heart even more that the game it exists in isn't a gold mine, but rather a cave of seemingly endless tunnels. As we continually state here at GLHF, board games are incredibly subjective, and if combo hunting inside this rich theme while racing for position across multiple tracks is what you're after, then give Red Rising a good look. I'm Nicholas, reminding you to help protect the game population, always sleeve your cards. Hey everyone, if you liked our video, please hit that sub button and ring that bell for notifications. Check out all of our other offerings at goodluckhighfive.com, and please consider becoming a patron of the channel over at patreon.com/GLHFmagic. It helps us keep making reviews, videos, podcasts, and you can become a member for any dollar amount. We're also always looking for new games to review. You can reach us at glhfmagic@gmail.com. You can follow me, Captain N the Game Master, at CaptainNGM on Twitter and Instagram, and follow the channel at GLHFmagic. Remember, please shop at your local game store whenever possible. Until next time, I'm Nicholas, and good luck. High five.